Welcome learners, it's week 4 lecture 20. In this lecture we are going to talk about gender representation in Indian theatre in the 21st century. When we come to the 21st century and talk about theatre in India, there have been various changes taking place. The gender dynamics, the changing scenario are some of the key points that we will be discussing in this particular lecture. Let us move ahead. You can see on your screen the outline of this lecture, which will cover women and theatre in India in the 21st century. We will also talk about the contemporary theatre makers, which includes the writers, the actors, the performers and directors. Sometimes it is one single person who is doing all these things that make that performer, scholar, a theatre maker. And towards the end we will talk about the queer activism, its visibility and theatre of India. So, with this brief outline, we are going to move ahead to talk about the role of women in theatre in India in the 21st century. When we come to the modern time, when we come to the contemporary time of the 21st century, more than 2 decades are over, and we see some remarkable changes taking place. The role of women, the representation of women are changing. It's no more how women are represented only, it's also about women themselves sharing their everyday experience through performances, which is closer to their real self, to the reality that makes them that gives a human representation of the character. Here we see on the screen some important points are mentioned when we come to the role of women and how women are presented in the 21st century. We see that there have been problematizing of how female characters are stereotypically represented and their representation in everyday life. It is important to represent women's day-to-day experience, women not of a certain class which is privileged, rather the ordinary women and their everyday experiences are focused in theatre in the 21st century. It also focuses on the real challenges that they face in their surroundings, their desires, their sexuality, their aspirations, their emotions, and also recognizing the prejudices and injustice existing in the society in 21st century. To express these areas, the theatre makers, the performers have discovered new and innovative style, methods of performance and representation that gives more agency to the actor's body, more agency to the character to which they are representing, and through those innovative methods, breaking the traditional construct, they are able to make a realistic representation of female characters on stage. In theatre of the 21st century, we see actors are conscious, learned, responsible people. They are conscious of what they are presenting. They are not doing anything which is given to them. So, the actor who is a conscious, a learned, a responsible citizen, his body or her body converts as an agency that is able to transform the society. We also see in the 21st century theatre the unconventional staging and performance, which is not based on a singular linear plot, rather a series of incidents are clubbed together that finally exposes the social hierarchies, and shares the experiences of women, as we will be discussing about Maya Rao's performances, who has done these kinds of innovative experiments in her performances. So, primarily we see that the unconventional staging and performances take place in theatre using innovative methods, non-linear plot, and the focus is not on setting or paraphernalia, rather the focus is on the actor's body and how it is able to convert as an agency and is able to be a change maker. When we talk about the contemporary theatre makers in India, some more initiatives were taken up. The collective actions some more initiatives are taken up, like we see that it is not only the actors who are important, who play a very conscious role through performance, but also the spectator's role is very important, who is no more passive and silent audience sitting and merely watching the performance. Rather, in 21st century, the spectator is very much conscious, participatory and responsible as a spectator, who take individual or collective action instead of sitting silently and watching the performance. There have been several plays are performed in which the audience get involved, they are involved, they participate in the performance, making it more interactive and learning experience for not only the actors but also for the audience, who is able to think of the issue in a different light. Here some names are very important. Here some significant writers and performers are there who have contributed in the field of theatre in the 21st century remarkably, like Maya Krishna Rao, Mallika Taneja, Prashant Prakash, Kalki Kochlin, Savita Patel, and many more are there. Selected plays I have taken up to analyze in order to understand how a change is being visible and how gender is being represented in the 21st century. Here I will talk about a play by Maya Krishna Rao titled Walk, which was performed first in 2013. It questions the confinement of women in the private space of home. And this confinement of women in the private space is due to the fear to go out and fear of sexual violence and rape. It also explores women's display, also explores women's presence as a citizen and social being in the public spaces, who can access the public spaces like streets, parks and other public spaces. So Maya Krishna Rao, through her powerful performance, questions how women's movement is controlled. She is confined to the private spaces, which is questionable out of the fear of whom? So, certain pertinent questions are raised through her performance, and it has a non-linear plot that through her body we see the actor's movement remarkably creates a powerful performance of the play. In another play, R.I.P., which was performed first in 2017 by Savita Patel, represents Sita from Ramayana as a modern empowered woman who questions the status of women in society and constructs her own identity. She is not blaming anyone nor represented as a vulnerable, weak figure. Rather, she is the one who takes her own decision, questions the social dogmas, the conventional society, and she explores her own identity and finds out the self-respect through her own endeavor, which is remarkable. So, Savita Patel's R.I.P. is another important example to understand how women are represented in the 21st century. Another play, Quality Streets by Maya Krishna Rao, is also important to discuss as it focuses on the relationship of mother and daughter who negotiate the conventional social patterns, the institution of marriage, and the structure of family conventionally accepted, and how this duo of mother and daughter survive in the world. A very important play titled Quality Streets by Maya Krishna Rao. Then we see a play, Skeleton Woman, written in 2009. It was awarded. Another play, The Skeleton Woman, written in 2009 and awarded play. A play, The Skeleton Women, was written in 2009, which was co-authored by Prashant Prakash and Kalki Kochlin, is another important play where we find two characters, a man and woman, in conversation with each other and their dilemmas, the conflicts and the emotions that they have been facing are the focus of this play, The Skeleton Woman. Moving ahead, we see a remarkable play, Thoda Dhyan Se, translated as Be Little Careful, in 2017 by Mallika Taneja, must be mentioned as it is a remarkable unconventional play which questions the patriarchal norms, issues of sexual harassment and the victim blaming culture existing in the society. This play also addresses the conventional female decency as the appropriate clothing for women that is supposed to prevent sexual violence and rape. This play primarily questions the idea of responsibility which is expected from women more than the other gender in the situation where she becomes a victim of sexual violence, harassment. She is the one who is victimized and she is the one who is blamed. This culture has been intelligently questioned by Mallika Taneja with her powerful performance, Thoda Dhyan Se, and we will see a glimpse of this play and try to understand how powerfully this performance takes place, and Mallika Taneja establishes the idea of victim blaming and the sense of responsibility. Let us watch it first.
Even when there is party in the office, the one thing that I never ever forget is my responsibility. You know this word responsibility? You know it? You know the responsibility, the ability to respond, the responsibility, the litty of the responsibility, the T of the responsibility.
I hope you have enjoyed watching a clip of Taneja's play Thoda Dhyan Se, where she was, through her performance, wearing a baggage of clothes, wearing a number of clothes, suggesting that no matter what you do, if it is an external force, if the fear is coming from outside, it has nothing to do with what you wear. And every woman living in the society where the threat of sexual violence, where sexual violence and harassment and the rape cases are taking place, in such kind of society, no matter what you wear, you are equally vulnerable. And with her powerful performance, she establishes this idea. Now, after talking about how women played very important role and how they are being represented and how they have been represented in theatre of 21st century, let us see the queer representation in theatre of 21st century. When we come to LGBTQI plus community, we see that theatre and the plays are taken up by them are appealing to urban sensibility more than the town and rural based masses. So, LGBTQI plus community are using theatre primarily as a medium to express themselves and question the domination of heteronormative culture. In 2015, the Delhi International Queer Theatre and Film Festival called DIQTFF was organized by the NGO called Harmless Hugs. They took an initiative, but it is to be known that such initiatives are not happening, not taking place in a large number, and due to international funding, they were able to organize this film festival, which is not so common in India. And how the members of this community and the theatre practitioners have used theatre as a medium to express themselves and question the domination of heteronormativity in the society is something that we will talk about. According to a scholar, Bincy Mary George, she stated, I quote her words, "One of the challenges that queer theatre artists face in India is a lack of adequate vocabulary to address a heterosexual crowd about queer issues." So, the lack of adequate vocabulary and mimicking the Western culture are the problems that they have been facing as theatre artists in India. She further says that the festival like DIQTFF, the Delhi International Queer Theatre and Film Festival, in their urban centricism, exclusivity and narrow gay narrative, fails to initiate the intended dialogue and discussion to address queer issues to the larger crowd, and few theatre groups are using the religious, historical and cultural vocabulary and accounts to do so. So, as she has pointed out, we see that the urban centricism appealing to the urban sensibility and catering the need of the urban masses, being exclusive and not inclusive, and also narrowly addressing more to the gay narratives than other narratives parallelly existing in queer, it has been narrowed down and catered not to the larger masses, which is very much required. Here I would take up an example of a play called Dohri Zindagi, which is based on a famous storyteller Padma Shri Vijayadan Detha story Dohri Zindagi. It's a story written in Hindi which was dramatized for stage as a two-woman act by the Mumbai theatre group Play On as a play called Dohri Zindagi. Vijayadan Detha is known for representing women with great psychological depth, and he is a famous writer from Rajasthan. After opening at the Gender Bender Festival in Bengaluru, This play has been performed widely within and across India by representing strong female character and turning the female body as a site of liberation. In this play, we see that there is a reference in the very beginning of two villages which are set 48 miles apart, where two Seths are living who are very close to each other. They got married on the same day and their wives conceived on the same day. They pledged that their unborn children will be given in marriage to each other. But what happened next is very interesting, as it appears to be a conventional tale, but it is not, as both the children turn out to be girls, and to save dowry, one Seth raised his daughter like a boy and the two girls got married to each other. The villagers, when they got to know, they became outraged, they got upset, and there were a lot of conflicts taking place, followed by the marriage of the two girls with each other. So, Datta's story Dohri Zindagi was published in the 1980s, and that was a time when it was not a very common thing to talk about the lesbian rights, but we find him with great sensitivity dealing with the issue, and when it was adapted in the form of a play, it was highly popular. It became popular. Now, I would also like to talk about a theatre group, Pannamai, which is located in Chennai, is one of the first transgender theatre group, and it was formed by trans people living Smile Vidya, who is an author of I Am Vidya and a great scholar. Another founder of this group is Angel Glady and G. Iman Semavalar. So, Pannamai is the trans artist movement in Tamil Nadu, which expects to focus on art forms such as theatre, dance, photography and films. This transgender theatre group performed a play called Color of Trans that reflected the pain of trans people who face rejection from the society and undergo surgery and gender transition, and how they are rejected by society. So, an important play here in this context. Apart from these, we have already talked about the plays by Mahesh Dattani, how sensitively he deals with the queer issues in his plays. Another play we see titled Dushyant Priya, which is directed by Sarang Bhakre, Ila, which is directed by Pooja Saroop and Sheena Khalid, and also a play that we have already talked about previously, that is Begum Barve by Satish Alekar, are some very prominent examples to take up the queer activism, the sensitive issue of gender representation and queer issues, and how it has been delicately taken up by these writers in the 21st century. So, the idea of cross-dressing, drag, transgender, the issues related to the homosexual relationship are dealt by many of these writers remarkably through their plays and through their powerful performance. Women are also playing out not a victim role, women are also no more a victim, a vulnerable figure, a pathetic figure on stage, rather they are representing their own story in a powerful way, remarkably, being the writer of the script, right from being the writer of the script to direction and performance on stage. They are taking up all the challenges and performing it efficiently. So that is how we see the whole journey of theatre in India, from the ancient theatre, the traditional theatre, to the folk, and coming to the modern and the theatres of 21st century. Briefly, we have seen a journey that the theatre has covered, and it has to go a long way. When we talk about the representation of gender, there have been remarkable changes, and the depth and sensitivity has come. The depth, sensitivity and realistic representations are taking place, but we have to go long way to bring more changes and a better representation still to be seen. With these words, I end up here, and I thank each one of my learners who have been part of this journey to discuss gender and performance from Indian perspective. Thank you so much.